Okay, so today we're going back in time a bit.
Time travel.
Yeah, basically.
Ah,
We're diving into the 16th century to look at a moment in the history of the Maldives that might not be super familiar to everyone.
right. Not exactly a headline event for most folks.
Yeah, but it was critical. It really shaped things over
Oh,
there.
absolutely pivotal moment.
And we've got a great source to help us understand it, a translation of the Dhivehi Thaareekh.
Ah, now that's a fascinating text.
It is. It's this historical record compiled in the early 20th century, but get this, it's based on way older sources.
Oh, wow. So we're getting like a direct line to how people back then understood these events.
Exactly. That's what makes it so valuable. We're getting an inside perspective on this small island nation facing these huge external pressures.
I mean, just picture the Maldives in 1558. They've got their own culture, their own way of life, and suddenly this major foreign power shows up.
And everything changes. Yeah. So that's where we're focusing today, specifically on the reign of King Ali and the arrival of the Portuguese.
King Ali and the Portuguese in the Maldives sounds like a movie title.
Haha, right. It's a story full of drama and conflict and ultimately tragedy.
High stakes for sure.
Yeah, we're talking 965 AH, which is 1558 AD for those using the Gregorian calendar.
Right.
And what we really want to get at today is the sequence of events, the motivations behind them, the immediate impact, all as it's told in this historical text.
So we're really trying to unpack this pivotal moment in Maldivian history.
Yeah, and it's a chance to explore these bigger themes too, like religious tensions and resistance.
Oh, definitely themes that resonate through history.
And especially in a part of the world that Western history often kind of overlooks.
Right, it's not always front and center in the textbook.
Exactly. So that's why this source is so important. It lets us see this moment through the eyes of the Maldivian people themselves.
That internal perspective is invaluable. It adds so much depth and nuance to our understanding.
Okay, so let's jump in, shall we? The Dhivehi Thaareekh tells us that it all starts with King Ali Siri Adasyaka Katiri Bhavana Maharadhun becoming Sultan in 965 AH.
Wow, that's quite a mouthful, isn't it? Those royal titles are something else.
Yeah, tell me about it. But anyway, he becomes Sultan, but here's the thing. His reign is incredibly short.
Oh, how short are we talking?
2 months and 15 days. That's it.
Wow, that's like barely any time at all.
I know, right? It makes you think something big must have been going on.
Yeah, some serious instability or crisis to cut a reign that short.
Definitely. And we also know that King Ali was the son of the Prime Minister Abdul Rahman.
Interesting. So he came from within the existing power structure.
Exactly. And that probably played a role in his rise to power, but also maybe in what happened next.
I see where you're going with this. So to really grasp the why behind King Ali's short and turbulent rule, we need to look at the guy who came before him, King Hassan.
That's exactly right, because King Hassan's actions really set the stage for everything that followed.
Okay, so what did this King Hassan do to shake things up?
Well, the Dhivehi Thaareekh points to his conversion to Christianity while he was in Goa as a root cause of the conflict.
That's a huge shift, especially back then. A ruler's religion wasn't just a personal thing. It was deeply tied to politics and culture.
Right. It was like the foundation of the whole system.
Yeah. So switching religions like that would have been a massive deal, probably caused a lot of internal tension.
And opened the door for outside influence. Exactly.
So it wasn't just a quiet personal conversion. He was actively trying to spread Christianity in the Maldives.
He specifically targeted the Bodun in Malay.
Now, who are the Bodun?
They're basically the elders, the ministers, the big decision makers in Maldivian society.
Oh, so like the ruling council, the people with real influence.
Exactly. And if they resisted conversion, well, that would send a powerful message.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So how did King Hassan try to convince them?
It's kind of a wild story. He sent a Portuguese ship to Malay.
Okay, that's bold, bringing in a foreign power like that.
I know, right? But it gets even more interesting because the Dhivehi Thaareekh says they tricked the Bodun.
A trick? What do you mean?
Well, they told the Bodun that King Hassan wanted them to come to Cochin, like he needed their advice or something.
Oh, so they lured them under false pretenses.
Yeah, it seems like they were trying to get them away from Malay, maybe to pressure them into converting in a different environment.
Sneaky tactic?
But it didn't work. The Bodun talked it over and ultimately refused to go to Goa.
Wow, they stood their ground. They weren't about to abandon Islam.
Exactly. And that moment of defiance, it seems like it was a turning point.
It really set the stage for the conflict that was about to erupt.
Absolutely. And it also highlights how strong the commitment to Islam was among the Maldivian leadership.
Right, they were willing to stand up to pressure even from their own king.
And the refusal didn't stop there. According to the Dhivehi Thaareekh, there were actual battles between the Maldivians and the Portuguese even before King Ali took the throne.
Oh, wow, so things escalated pretty quickly.
They did, and the text names King Abu Bakr and King Ali himself as the main leaders of the Maldivian forces in these early clashes.
So King Ali was already involved in resisting the Portuguese, even before he became sultan.
That's right, and what's really striking is that the Maldivians actually won those first battles.
Wait, they defeated the Portuguese? I thought the
Yeah.
Portuguese were like a global superpower at this point.
They were, but the Maldivians managed to drive them back. They even seized weapons and goods and captured 3 Portuguese ships in one encounter.
That's impressive. It shows they weren't just going to roll over, they were ready to fight for their independence.
Exactly, and those victories must have stung for the Portuguese.
Yeah, it probably made them want to come back even stronger.
Which is exactly what happened. It leads us to this final tragic confrontation, the attack that led to King Ali's death.
Okay, so this is the big one, the turning point.
It is, the Dhivehi Thaareekh describes this third wave of attack, 3 ships full of armed Christian soldiers sent from Cochin.
Wow, so they really brought the reinforcements this time.
Yeah, they were clearly determined to take control, and the leader of this force is identified as a captain named Andiri Antiran.
And Thierry and Tyrion, okay, got to remember that name. Yeah. He's going to play a major role here.
He does, and the timing is crucial. They arrived in Malay just 2.5 months into King Ali's reign.
So he barely had any time to establish himself before this huge threat arrived.
I know, it's like he's thrown right into the fire.
And how did he respond?
Well, the account says that they landed on the western shore of Malay at dawn with all their guns and weapons.
That must have been a terrifying sight.
Absolutely, a show of force designed to intimidate, but King Ali didn't back down.
He didn't?
No, he immediately gathered his army and went to face them.
Wow, he was ready to fight.
He was, and the text really emphasizes his bravery. It says, he led from the front with a sword and shield in hand.
Classic image of a warrior king leading the charge.
Exactly, but then the narrative takes this heartbreaking turn. As King Ali reached the Eid Mosque, he looked back and saw that most of his army had deserted him.
Oh, no, they abandoned him. What happened?
We can only speculate. The Dhivehi Thaareekh doesn't give us a clear reason.
So it's left to our imagination, fear, maybe internal divisions, who knows?
Right, but regardless, it leaves King Ali in an impossible situation, drastically outnumbered and facing a heavily armed enemy.
So what did he do?
Unbelievably, he kept fighting the Dhivehi Thaareekh. Says he and the 2 men who stayed with him, the prime minister and a servant, attacked the Portuguese.
3 men against an army that's incredible.
It is a truly remarkable display of courage and loyalty.
Yeah, you got to admire that kind of bravery, even in the face of certain defeat.
Absolutely. And the Portuguese, they seemed hesitant to engage in hand-to-hand combat.
Probably didn't want to risk it even against 3 men.
Yeah, so instead they relied on their firearms, and tragically that's how King Ali died, shot and killed a martyr.
Oh, wow. What a sad end to such a brave leader.
And the Dhivehi Thaareekh confirms that the prime minister and the servant were also killed fighting alongside him.
So all 3 died heroes defending their land.
It's a powerful image of loyalty and sacrifice.
The pivotal moment in Maldivian history, for sure.
And a turning point in the conflict, because with King Ali gone and the Maldivian forces scattered, the Portuguese had a clear path to victory.
They were able to just march in and take over.
Exactly. The Dhivehi Thaareekh tells us that Antiri Antiran, the Portuguese captain, took the Maldivian throne.
So in a matter of months, the Maldives went from having their own sultan to being ruled by a foreign captain.
A pretty dramatic shift in power, and the account goes on to say that the Portuguese installed their own rulers in different parts of the Maldives, solidifying their control.
You weren't messing around, they were establishing a firm grip on the islands.
And the text even gives us a specific date for these events, the 1st of Shaban 965 AH, which is May 19th, 1558 AD.
That level of detail really helps to ground the story in a specific historical context.
It does. It connects these events to the wider world of the 16th century, the age of exploration and global empires.
It reminds us that these big historical forces were playing out everywhere, even on seemingly remote islands like the Maldives.
Right. And the story doesn't end there. The Dhivehi Thaareekh goes on to describe what happened to the bodies of King Ali and his companions.
Okay, so what became of them?
Well, later on, when a group of Muslims returned to the shore, they found the bodies.
Oh, wow. That must have been a somber discovery.
It was, and the islanders buried them right there on the spot where they fell.
A fitting tribute, burying them where they made their final stand.
And they built a coral stone enclosure around the grave, a strong wall with seawater flowing around it.
That imagery is so powerful, the sea surrounding their final resting place.
And what's even more poignant is that the Dhivehi Thaareekh says that later Maldivian kings continued to visit the grave.
Wow. So they kept his memory alive. They honored his sacrifice.
They did. It became a symbol of resistance and of King Ali's bravery in the face of overwhelming odds.
It's a reminder that even in defeat, the spirit of resistance can endure.
Exactly, and it shows how deeply this event impacted the Maldivian people. It became a part of their collective memory.
So looking back at everything we've discussed today, we've covered a lot of ground. The brief reign of King Ali, his heroic last stand, the Portuguese invasion, the aftermath.
It's a complex story with so many layers. Religious conflict, political intrigue, the struggle for power.
And ultimately, it's a story about the human cost of these historical forces, the individuals caught in the crossfire.
Like King Ali and the two men who stood by him to the very end.
Their bravery, their sacrifice. It's a reminder that history isn't just about dates and names. It's about people.
Real people making difficult choices, facing impossible odds.
It makes you wonder what would happen if things had gone differently.
Right, what if King Hassan hadn't converted? What if the Maldivian army hadn't deserted King Ali?
It's a reminder that even small events can have huge ripple effects.
And that individual choices can shape the course of history.
It really makes you think about the fragility of power and the enduring strength of the human spirit.
It does, and I think that's a good place to leave it for today. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, hit me with it.
Think about King Hassan. His conversion to Christianity was a personal choice, but it had these huge unintended consequences.
Yeah, it set off a chain of events that ultimately led to the loss of Maldivian independence.
Exactly. So the question I want to leave you with is this. How can the actions of a single individual have such far-reaching effects on a whole nation?
That's a deep one. It really makes you think about individual responsibility and the interconnectedness of events.
It does, and it's something worth pondering, I think, especially in today's world where everything feels so interconnected.
Definitely, it's a reminder that our choices matter more than we sometimes realize.
They do, and on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Maldivian history.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the past.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.
Absolutely, and thanks for listening.